Hey there, friends. Good to see you again. It's been a fairly decent run of feeling well enough to talk about shit that I've been thinking about for, oh, I don't know, decade or two. So I decided that today I'd put myself to work, or to use anyway, as I needed to clean this mechanism. And I thought maybe we could talk about what's inside a handgun and some of the components and what does what. So I just want to start with the general layout here, which took me all of 15 seconds. And kind of start with the big pieces, and then we'll work down to the smaller ones that you may be more, you might have some more questions about what they are. Obviously, you've seen this part. It's the grabby part. And in this series of Guns for Liberals, it's not that I assume no liberals understand guns or have had experience with them. It's that I assume anybody watching this series on YouTube either has, very little experience and wants to learn more, or is very liberal and wants to, I don't know, roast me in the comments or something. Like it's it's not some sort of, you know, slight. It's just I want to make sure from person to person that if you're going to go out there in the world, you understand the things you're getting into, and talk to you in a friendly way from somebody who's from the same background before. So this right here, the grippy bit, is the frame, or you could call it the lower receiver. Receiver is a word that you're going to hear more in rifles. You can just call this the frame, right? In this case, this one is made out of steel. Others are made out of plastic, which people call polymer because it sounds fun and high tech. It is just plastic, special kind of plastics, but plastic. And then there's other ones made of aluminum. Occasionally, you'll find one made out of stainless steel, and very rarely something like scandium and titanium. Most of the time, you're going to run into steel, aluminum, or polymer plastic, right? Like a Glock, an M&P, those are going to be polymer. Those are going to be lighter. This one's going to be Granddad's gun. So this is an M1911A1. So named for the year 1911 in which the original was designed. It is a revision that happened between World War I and World War II. John Browning is the one who designed it. It is as relevant today as it ever was, but I would say generally not as favored for everyday carry as maybe some of the other guns are. However, it is very simple inside, and that makes it an excellent material for study. So let's go ahead and dive down deeper. Now, the frame, you can see, has the trigger in it, right? And it's got this little guy here, the hammer. Now, just to show you, usually there's these grip panels that occupy the side here, right? And that makes life a lot more comfortable. But this is where the main controls that you're going to interact with are. You can also see, right, if I cock this back, right, we can do a little bit of pull the trigger, down goes the hammer. So the ignition components, the thing that causes the actual chain of events that sets off the primer and lights the powder and sends the bullet down the barrel, starts here, right, at your finger. And that goes through a mechanism, which you can't really see in there right now. Well, maybe if we see that moving around right here. Well, can't get good light on it, but if you were to look through there, there's a little guy back down in there moving as I pull that trigger. And that releases a little fella, which then allows this hammer to be pushed forward. Now there's a strut on the base of this hammer that goes to a spring, which is captured in here. And this spring wants to push that way and cause the hammer to fly forward. So this is where all the action happens that involves you, right? And almost every handgun is designed this way, where the ignition components and the grip frame, the lower receiver, are all one component package, right? There's about 5 or 6 more little pieces in here that it's just not important for you to understand, right? Like, if you're getting into that level, this video is well below your level. Now, you may recognize that this part seems to fit. You can see there's these slidey rails, and indeed here, slidey rails. And it seems that these two, if I could do this on camera, actually, I'm not allowed to show you how to put things together on YouTube. Isn't that weird? So this guy, right, that looks more like what you remember. And you'll, of course, think about pulling that back, and this reciprocates as part of the action of the gun. This component right here is called the slide, because it slides. Creativity wasn't at the top of the list when naming these things. But when you're trying to make something that somebody who's 18 years old, just a hayseed from Nebraska in the middle of a field in Europe somewhere, is going to have to be responsible for taking apart, cleaning, reassembling, and using to save their own life, you try to make it simple. So this guy holds these components here, right? All this stuff. Basically, it's where all of the actual mechanism of gunness is, right? Like, this could be basically qualified as whatever. Very often, this isn't the serialized part. This is the part that the government considers the actual firearm. And the reason for that is you can't, no matter how hard you try, set off a bullet with a flat face hammer like that. It's not going to happen. What you need is something pointy, like this. So what happens is, let me grab a round here so I can show you. This was poorly staged. You can feel free to make fun of me if you like. We'll grab a round, and you can see here, there's the primer. And this guy gets whacked by that hammer after we pull the trigger and goes boop, sets this off. That ignites the powder inside here, which propels this guy down the barrel. So the firing pin is a pretty cool thing. It's got to be very precisely made. It's got to be of a specific kind of material that can stand being whacked a bunch of times, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 times without wearing down, without getting mushroomed. It's kind of a big deal, right? And so this pin floats in a little channel right there. You can see right down it, this one in the center, right? And if you look here, there you go, just down there, that middle one, right there, you can see that it is directly in the middle of this orifice. It comes out of this face right here. Should have brought a flashlight. So we know that has something significant to do with the back of one of these and one of these, right? We know that this has to be right there, right? But actually on the face. And that little pin has to be whacking this way. Now, of course, if I just do that, it's just going to fall right through. So there's got to be something in there that holds it in. Something like this with a little hook, right? you saw there were 2 holes, right? And in that second one goes this little hook guy, and he hooks right there on the rim of that case and holds it against the face of that. And the face of that we'll call the breech. Call it the breech face. Oops, whacking the camera again. Now, that also serves as kind of our little stabilizing factor that enables us to insert this magazine, right? That's what this is called. It's a magazine, not like the kind you read, right? But you can see there's rounds in there. We insert it up through here, and you can see out the top, there's a round. And as this guy goes, the spring in this magazine has pushed it up to the point where if this comes forward, the face of this is going to catch on the back, right there. And it's going to pull this guy up out of there into this face and eventually tip it into the barrel. Now, you could guess this was the barrel. I think you know that by now, right? The barrel has a hood right here, and it has a ramp right there. There is a corresponding ramp. I will get this out of the way. Right here, where that round, as it's picked up from the magazine, goes whoop, like that. Now, this is what you would call a self-loading pistol. Originally called an automatic pistol. It is not automatic in the sense that we think of where you pull the trigger and it goes until you let go. It is you pull the trigger, it does the firing sequence, ejects the spent case, and then reloads another one automatically, self-loading. Semi-automatic is what we call that today. So the barrel lives here in the gun. We're going to have the slide stay away, right? We see the ramp right there, and how this guy comes from the magazine up, gets loaded into there, and then we pull that trigger, whoop, it smacks the back, just that much movement, just that much, sets this guy off. And then the extractor comes, since it's got a hold of that, it goes and pulls this back. As this, the barrel stays in the same place, but it does this. And as it's being pulled back, imagine this is still there, because I've got to get my hands out of the way to show you. Get this barrel out of the way. As it's being pulled back, it hits this guy, this rail right here, which decouples it and sends it out the side, right? So the slide at this point is right here, and you can see this port, called the ejection port, it knocks the back of this guy out and sends it this way. Sometimes right back into your face, so you can enjoy hot brass in the morning. Pretty cool. Now we've got that kind of figured out and described. The trick then, right, so it makes sense to most people that when you cause an action, an equal and opposite reaction is going to happen, right? So if this cartridge is stuck to the face of this, boom happens, bullet goes that way. Ooh, sorry. Right, bullet goes that way, so an equal and opposite force has to go this way. I'm going to kind of visually line these up. So it goes whoop backwards, right? How do we then get it to come forward to pick up that next round and repeat the cycle? Excellent question. You're a very good student. I give you high marks. Your grade school teacher was wrong. You will be something someday. So we have this guy right here. This is the recoil assembly, right? And this bad boy hangs out kind of in this right there. Okay. So if I were to put this in YouTube, we're not assembling anything or teaching anyone how to do this stuff. All right. This guy. Okay. I'm gonna have to put the barrel in. There's just no other way. So the barrel, right, lives in here, and there's some wigglage it does. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm on camera. I can't think straight. There's some wigglage that it does, and it's not super relevant for me to talk to you about the tilting, locking action, etc. But it does some interesting, cool stuff. We're gonna see. Oh, this is gonna go everywhere. Great. Well, supposing that didn't fly out of there, this guy goes in here, spins making a hash of this. You know what? The worst idea in the world, by the way, is to try and do this on camera. So you're welcome. Sorry, we'll do it off camera anyway. Point is, it retains this spring, which hangs out underneath this part of the barrel. So I'm just going to take it out for now just because I can't manage that with just my hands. My hands are not strong enough anymore. Right. So this guy lives there. And as this thing goes back in the slide, this spring gets compressed. And it wants to shoot forward and unload that energy. And that's how we get a sloppy demonstration. I'm sorry. It's just without having the thing together, you really can't demonstrate too well. Just trying to. So that's how that goes together. This recoil assembly essentially pushes back against the front of this slide and sends it forward because it's been compressed. We'll just pretend that this was on. And so was this barrel bushing, right? Which locks that in place. So that's the idea there. The slide stop is the pin that holds the whole thing together. You can see it goes across there, right? So the reason that's there, now that I've put that all together, I can just take it apart. The reason that's there is to go through this little toggle link, right? You see this guy? This is the key to the magic of how this whole thing works. So we make sure, this is gonna be hard on camera from this weird angle, but we make sure to get our barrel in there, right? And you can see, sorry again, this tilts, right? So that's how our barrel is retained inside the frame. And as this cycles back, the barrel tips up, a new round goes in much easier, and then the barrel comes up. Right, you see this motion? And these lugs, they lock in to these guys right here, right? So as the slide comes back, and imagine the slide coming back, this pivots backwards and down, okay? So it's up high, now it's going to come back and down, and it unlocks from the ridges in here, okay? See them together like that? As it gets reloaded, that round goes in, and everything gets pushed back up and relocks with the slide. That's generally how this works. And for most guns that you're going to encounter, that's how basically things are going to happen. Now, with polymer guns, plastic guns, you'll find that, the operation is similar up top, but in the bottom, things are slightly different because they're made out of stamped sheet metal instead of like machined steel. And yeah, that's kind of a different experience. But real quick, I'm just going to show you real quick how I like to oil and reassemble my stuff here. I just use 30 weight oil in this syringe and I make a mess. It's my job. I don't really do a lot, just the parts that touch, and you can tell because they're kind of worn. Maybe a little there. And then, you just reassemble like a normal person. Okay. Springy dingy. I like a little oil on this just to make my life easier. Not everybody does. Oiling stuff is kind of like, it's like wiping your ass. Everybody's got their own way of doing it, and everybody likes it, more or less clean. And everybody has different levels of patience. You are absolutely welcome for that. Analogy. Okay. So I'm going to grab my little punchy punch. Predictable. Thought I'd get away with it. We're not going to get away with it. All right. Use a flat screwdriver. Come on. There we go. All right, so that's that back together. Now I like to put a little oil, just a fart, a whiff of a fart. And you could do this on any gun you own if you want. Anywhere I see metal that's worn, that's usually my indicator that I want to put some oil there. Just because that means friction. And friction isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, but you want your shit to last. So this is a machine, right? And all machines, most machines, benefit from some lubrication some way. I am not terribly particular. I'm also not looking at the screen, so forgive me if I'm doing a messy job here. One thing people often forget to do is oil this bad boy. The link. Which, okay, it's kind of the operating system of this whole situation. So get it together, guys, right? Okey-dokey. This could be annoying, so there's a couple of ways to do it. Off camera is my favorite way. Imagine that. So I'm going to line up this hole. Pop this dude through. And then Pull this guy back till it meets this notch. Bada bing. Okay, so whoop, all the way through. Then we'll do this bullshit. And again, I apologize for whacking the camera 1,000 times. All right. So this has to come up. That goes to the side. Just trying to have my cake and eat it too while looking through the viewfinder and got distracted. Okay. Trying to do this so you can see it. There we are. Okay. She's assembled. Okay, safety works. Grip safety works. Boom, ready to go. Rock and roll. Okay, so there she is, all one piece, except for the grips. And you can see it all goes together. Take this off, load her up, and we're gonna keep our damn fingers off the trigger. Watch how that round pops up, gets stripped off, goes in. Now watch as it gets popped out. Next one comes up, pulled off, goes in. Pulls up, up. Get it? All right, guys. Best of luck to you. Take care. Be square. Wear clean underwear.